I learned the hard way. I think Source, God, threw me down that day. I'll get off of my high horse, basically. When I hit, I entered into an NDE, a near-death experience. So I went over to the other side. After surgery, when I woke up, he was in my room. And he said to me, I wanted to be here when you woke up. A miracle happened on the operating table. I've never seen anything like it. The illusion of this world is so powerful. When people aren't aware, they're not awakened yet spiritually, they're stuck in the illusion. They feel like they are actually that person, that identity, and they get lost in that. A lot of coaches, teachings that will teach you that you have to embody an identity in order to become wealthy. This keeps you on the level of the illusion.
That was definitely a download and a nugget that needed to come out, so I'm glad you went back to it. Welcome to The Greater Journey. As you know, I'm your host, Gregory Rutledge, and my goal today is to uncover those moments that made my guest greater so that you can find the courage to step boldly into your own journey. You know, we don't just celebrate the highlight reels. We dive into the trenches, the doubts, the detours, the lessons, and the breakthroughs that shape who we become. And today's guest has lived the kind of story that could only be written by divine design. You know, that's my favorite. Kelly Mason is a filmmaker, healer, activist, and founder of Kula Paradise Academy. But her journey started with a literal fall from grace. After being thrown from a galloping racehorse, she was told she would never regain full mobility. Yet months later, she made a complete recovery, a documented medical miracle that became the catalyst for her spiritual awakening. For over 20 years, she's guided thousands of people through physical, emotional, and spiritual healing, helping them reconnect with their divine blueprint. And today, we're unpacking what it means to be a superconscious creator and how miracles, pain, and purpose often share that same road. Kelly.
Beautiful.
I love it. I love it. So I want to dive right in because I am so excited about this conversation. So my first question is, before the miracle, before Kula Paradise and the healing work, who was Kelly Mason?
Oh, what a fantastic question. Well, hello, Gregory. I'm so honored to be on your amazing show. This is such a beautiful podcast, and you've done so much great work. And I just love the storyline that you're on. So yes, before I was thrown off of the galloping racehorse in Tobago, West Indies, I had an identity. I had a real identity because I was on a film set for most of my life. Since I was 18 years old, I worked on big budget productions, features like X-Men, TV series like Riverdale, The Night Agent. And I worked my way up the ranks for almost 40 years. Now to date. But before the accident, I was 20 years in the industry. So I was very identified with the role that I played as a film person. And yeah, that got me into a bit of trouble because when you get attached to an identity, and that can create arrogance, that can create ego. And I was all about that. So I learned the hard way. I think Source, God, threw me down that day off the horse to get off of my high horse, basically.
Wow. That is crazy. I know myself and a lot of people listening can relate to that. You know, they say pride comes before the fall, and you literally had to fall from grace, and be humbled, right? If we're not humble, we'll be humiliated. You know, we have the 10 commandments up in our bathroom, and there's one that I noticed that I never noticed before because, you know, you just kind of don't look at them anymore. And it's, thou shalt have no other gods before me, or graven images, no idols, basically. And when our ego becomes that idol and we kind of idolize and believe our own press, he's like, oh yeah, let me show you who's in control.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And that is so true. Now that I look back, and I'm at a place now where I can really identify with the creator and with the blessing that we all have to be here as what I call superconscious creators, it's just gratitude and a miracle every day that we are given this kingdom, this abundance of life that we have the privilege of learning from and molding ourselves from and understanding, how we can grow and change and serve.
That's so beautiful. Service, man. Service is so important and so underrated. So when that fall happened, what did it awaken in you that you didn't know was there before?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that it did was help me realize how powerful we are to heal ourselves. So I had fallen off the horse, and it took me 10 days to get to proper medical care.
Wow.
So in those 10 days, I started to die. Now, you see, when I hit the ground, first of all, I broke actually, it was this arm. I broke my left arm right off at the base of the ball joint. And so my arm was on my back. It was still intact in the skin, but it was on my back. And when I hit, I entered into an NDE, a near-death experience. So I went over to the other side. And I experienced the beauty and the love and the peace. And it was a very full feeling. It was like I was just surrounded by all of this glory and love and peace. And I thought, oh, if this is what this is, then this is okay. I can stay here. I'm happy to be here. And it was such an incredible experience of stillness. And that was one thing that I really brought back with me as I came back. I started to hear my breath, and I thought, oh, that's my breath. And I guess God had not been done with me in terms of my soul assignments, my soul contracts here that I needed to still live out. And so I was returned to earth, into my body again. And as I came to, excuse me, I entered into a severe realm of surrender and pain at the same time, because they were trying to get me an air ambulance, and the air ambulance wasn't coming through. So in those 10 days, I was starting to die anyway. When I finally got to the other side, into the hospital, the surgeon said, we'll need to give you a prosthetic arm. And I said, no, that's not possible. I'd actually had a couple of my Academy Award-winning friends call me over the weekend, and they found out where I was and where I was staying. And they said, you need to have them fix your arm. You still need to win your Academy Award. And I said, okay. So I told the surgeon that. Still need to win my Academy Award. So you're going to need to fix this. So anyway, after surgery, when I woke up, he was in my room. And he said to me, I wanted to be here when you woke up. A miracle happened on the operating table. I've never seen anything like it. He said, the first time we pulled you in traction, everything lined up perfectly. So all they needed to do was pin me back together. They didn't even cut my skin to operate.
Wow.
3 months later, they took all the pins out. 6 months later, I was fully healed. No pain. Perfect. And that's when I came into the power to heal. So my life changed dramatically from being a film person with the ego and the arrogance to what do I do with this now? And how am I meant to serve? So I surrendered as a divine tool. I say every day, use me as your divine tool and guide me. And so many things since then have occurred. I've been taken through God's grace to Costa Rica to create environmental legislation as a single mother with 2 toddlers, a broken marriage, no job, no car, no family, no friends, not even speaking the language. I was led there where we blew the whistle on 72 corrupt government officials that were sent to prison. And this is not something that I would ever have thought I would have been able to do. I actually became a road builder. We created a solution for plastic waste where we used waste materials in road construction to empty landfills. So all of these things were part of my passion as a mother. I didn't want waste. I didn't want the planet being in trouble. I There were many things that I wished for. And I knew that this was then part of my soul assignment because I was wishing so deeply for those things. So I started to recognize a lot about what it was like being a human being and what kind of superpowers and superconscious powers we have. We really walk as a trilogy. We walk as a human self in costume with our certain characteristics and virtues and values. And then as a soul, an eternal soul with our contracts and our assignments. And then with Source, with God, we're in partnership. We're part of the entire projection of God's light. We're this kind of like in a movie theater, the projector is the light and the screen is the drama. It's the same here on Earth where God is the light and Earth is the drama. We're the screen of that drama. So there's a lot of things that have come through in the last 20 years since that accident.
That is such an incredible story. And I don't think people realize just the power of a story and like experiencing, like when I met you, you can feel that what you're saying. It's not just words. You're not just saying these things. I felt your spirit. Like we literally connected. And it was funny because we were having conversations with a couple other gentlemen about how when you resonate at a frequency, you just kind of attract those kind of people. And then you walked up and the rest of that day, it was just people vibrating on that high vibration that understand love and service that just kept flowing to us. And it was like, what just happened here? Now, so I didn't mention this in the intro, but every interview kind of mirrors the framework in my book, From Waiter to Greater. The greater is a framework, and that was being grounded in your unique story. You have a beautiful story. What happens most times is people have this story, but they have limiting beliefs that they have not reframed yet. And I think you mentioned a lot about how you had to reframe, but since you've been working with people, you mentioned being over abroad, no friends, single mom, no car, in a place where you didn't even speak the language. What belief do you see most people holding that keeps them from experiencing their own miracle?
Great question. Beautiful. The illusion of this world is so powerful. And when people aren't aware, they're not awakened yet spiritually, they're stuck in the illusion. They feel like they are actually that person, that identity that is being victimized or that's suffering or that is having struggles. And they get lost in that. And so the main thing to do is to come into your awakening, which we all do eventually. And as you awaken, you will understand that, there's a law of detachment or a way that I can actually step back and watch this miracle, this divine play out, and to not be stuck in that trap of the ego in the illusion, because that's the biggest problem, especially right now with all the noise. There's so much disruption in this world. There's a collective culture of social media that's mostly based on false identities. People are painting a picture of themselves that isn't true just so that they can benefit off of others. And that is probably about 70% or maybe 80% of what you're seeing out there now. So that's because this illusion is so strong and it's meant to be strong. It's such a beautiful way that Source is creating this contrast, this kingdom for us to get molded in, to grow in, to feel the pain of growth. And we've asked for this. Excuse me, we've asked for this as souls. We've wanted to come back and experience that so that we can move into a higher frequency, like you were speaking of, an ascension, like what has happened with some of our great masters like Jesus and Buddha, Paramahansa Yogananda. Those types, they've all been people of souls just like us that have just lived more lives and they've gone through more lessons, more pain, more suffering to ascend. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
Absolutely. You know, it's so overlooked because it's such a staple in who we are. Is our ego is just a collection of stories and experiences that create who we think we are or need to be to protect ourselves. And what is it called? Default mode network, like scientifically, it is the thing that is shut off when you're having a psychedelic experience that allows that awakening to happen. And whether it's an NDE or psychedelic experience, either way, it shuts the ego off enough for you to experience the divine. And
Beautiful.
I love that you mentioned that because so many people, and you're right, are pretending to be something they're not so that they can take advantage of people. And it's kind of sickening. You go on social media and, if someone just says something confidently enough, then people start to believe them and follow them. And we're following so many people that just have access to a camera and dark psychology. And
Exactly.
it's just ruining, like a lot of people that are very gullible, that just are not awakened, as you mentioned.
And this is something I just want to jump in on that because yes, there is a lot of that psychological warfare going on, but at the same time, I think it's really important for your listener and your viewer to understand that this is all on purpose. Like the creator is creating all of this so that we have to go back inward into a spiritual sovereignty, into the spiritual integrity, because we're meant to follow our soul contracts. We're not meant to follow and, bang at the illusion. Um, that's the ego. So when we get to a point of suffering or a wakefulness, either one is going to give us the opportunity to go back inward and say, okay, hold on a second, wait a second. Let me use that feminine energy, not the masculine energy. I don't need to hustle. I don't need to prove. I don't need to do. All I want to do now is listen, allow the masculine to be that container, to be that structure, to be that which will be delivered to me, but allow that feminine power to flow it, to intuit, to create it. So it's a beautiful sacred union that we hold within ourselves in that power.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because I know there's some Christians that watch this they've already tuned out. But if they haven't, I need them to embrace the continuous learning that happens as we fulfill our soul contracts, as we fulfill what we asked for, right? They're not hearing this because of the programming that religion does, right? And that's the next letter in the framework, by the way, is the E for embracing continuous learning. You talk about receiving intuitive guidance. How did you learn to trust this voice and not question it?
It's a great question. Okay, so I have become an expert in this field because I came into the power to heal. So after that miracle happened on the operating table, I've been able to channel or facilitate probably around 5,000 healings now over the last 20 years. I heal almost every day for someone, whether it's paid or not. I'm called to the healing through the divine. And so these are very in-depth insights. I get to see the soul, past lives, where they come from. Many of us have never been to Earth before. Many of us have been to parts of the world where there hasn't been any gender, or sorry, parts of the universe where there hasn't been any gender. So they come back or they come into Earth as a them because they haven't ever experienced a gender before. So they don't identify with it.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I get to see future lives. So it's really fascinating because I've gathered all of this experiential evidence so that I can now come out and publicly. This has just been recent for me to come out and speak about all of this because my soul assignments and contracts have been very private. And I never advertised or marketed as a healer. So every day that person would show up. So again, that's just the power of allowing things to happen in your life. Just like Jesus was able to come into that frequency and that responsibility to heal and to spread the word. There are many of us out there that are not on that level of Jesus's power yet and have not had a book written about us, but there are a lot of souls in this universe, in this world, that are doing this work. And so that's how I've come into this intuitive awareness.
It is so beautiful. And I love that we're having this conversation. There's not many people that have been awakened or that have a mind that's open to anything and attached to nothing that can accept that there are so many more lessons you can learn by being open-minded. And there's so much more to this puzzle than what we know. And in your journey as both a filmmaker and a healer, I'm curious what you've learned about blending creativity and consciousness.
Yeah, I love that. Because we are all creators, right? In our own way, whether we're making music, we're making food, we're making whatever it is, we're always creating. That's what we're here to do. So when it comes to my creative in film, it's been fascinating for me because I asked, why did I get in the film industry? Why did I have all these lucky breaks and work with the best and on a very high level? And I believe there are two reasons that brought me into this spiritual service. The first is the level of professionalism. So because I was introduced to a very high level of filmmaking and maintained that my whole career, there's a level of respect and responsibility that comes with that. So when we're on a film set, we are very respectful of the hierarchy. And it's kind of similar in spirituality. We're respectful of the hierarchy of God being that source, being that generator of life, right? And then our soul being our eternal vehicle, and then our human self is being the character. And so I went through all of these different realizations with the film industry as well. I said there were two. So the first one was about professionalism. The second one was about how we are living our story in real life. And it's the same as the story that I tell in the film industry, but different because I'm just aware that I'm shooting that story. And the thing is, we would make script changes all the time at that high level. So it would make the script better and better and better, right? We would go deeper into the character. We would want a better outcome, a feeling that the audience would go home with a lesson, a moral to the story, something that might change them. And that's what I've taken from film and storytelling and the level of making that to my own personal life and my spiritual life and my life of service of like, okay, how can I make this script, my script that I'm writing, my story better? So for example, I was helping a friend, I'll call him a friend, who is homeless. And what I noticed was that he was really, trying to get as much out of me as possible, but he was also coming in with this amazing script of opportunity for the future. And so I noticed that my mind was going into judgment and was going into a bit of like, oh, I'm going to come from a place of lack, so I don't have to keep spending the money or doing this and, doing things for him. And that was such a wrong thing. Okay, this is the father of my children. I'm going to be honest with you. He's finding his way. Yeah. So I'm very connected. That's a role that he's playing for me. We're all playing roles. Each one of us. I'm playing a role for you right now in this costume, in this body. When he was asking me to help him, he was playing a role for me to once and for all get me out of a lack or scarcity mindset. How dare I think that I'm in lack in this kingdom of abundance when we are so blessed? We're always taken care of. Because when we go inside and we believe that and we tune out of all of the deception and the noise of this illusion and we go in there's only glory, there's only abundance, there's only wealth in that kingdom, right?
Amen. Yes, absolutely. That is so beautiful. I love that because this is exactly what I mean when I talk about embracing continuous learning. Like everything is a lesson, everything. And until we see it as such, we get to retake the lesson.
For sure, for sure. And what I learned from that lesson yesterday was like, oh, there's really two modes of thinking here. There are the first is I'm in the illusion, things are happening to me. I am in lack. I need to work hard. I need to hustle. I need to prove. And then there's the other mode where a lot of the wealthy reside of I have opportunity. I'm not going to pay attention to what's happening right now because I know I can change that. I know that I can make this a different script, a better story. I can rewrite what I'm doing, what I'm thinking. And so when we get to that other side of rewriting our stories and knowing that there are infinite possibilities when we go within, this is very important. People are teaching that there are infinite possibilities through manifestation in this life and in this body. That's a lie. There are not infinite possibilities. If there were, we would not die. We're going to, if we had unlimited possibilities, then we could say, okay, I'm never going to die and I'm never going to grow old and I'm going to manifest that. But that's not the deal here. We're limited. So let's get real. First of all, there are limitations for us, on purpose for us to grow. But the unlimited possibilities are within. They're within our heart, within our soul, and whether we're going to grow and evolve within to share in the outside world in this life or another life, then that's the unlimited aspect of our beingness. What I've learned through doing all of these healings and watching where people go and all of that.
That is so incredible to be able to see like past and future through the healing. And I've talked to quite a few people that have had NDEs, and like you come back with this supernatural ability, and it's almost like you go back to the place where you made the script that you don't remember when you come here, and you kind of get oh yeah, that's why I'm here. And you come back and you actually fulfill it. So the next letter in the framework is action-oriented goals. And I know you said, the goal is not to hustle or do, or, give into this hustle culture. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, we are to be the essence of who we are is where everything flows from. But we have to fall in love with who we are and let what we do flow from that, and then have everything that is meant for us on this journey, and meant for people to receive from us as well. So I'm curious, so that there's two sides to this question. After your recovery, what was the first small step you took towards living this new purpose? And then I'll ask the other part.
Okay, beautiful. I love how you said that we do have to go into this unlimited well of self-love. The first small step I took, surrender. It's a small step, but it's got a big impact.
It really does.
So I surrendered to my healing, my physical healing, and that translated into mental and emotional healing, spiritual healing, all of that. And then what was the second part of the question?
So the second part is for someone listening who's ready to reconnect with their purpose. What's one action do you think that they can take today to start that journey? And I feel like I know where this is going. I'm so glad you said surrender, because it's so underrated. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. You see, it's not that easy. I know. For all of us. It's not easy to, first of all, understand your purpose. So that takes a stepping back. That takes a quieting of the mind, whether that's in meditation, walking, swimming, an activity, driving, getting on a plane. That tends to be when our minds will quiet. And so you can ask within, how am I meant to serve? What is my next assignment? What is my purpose here? And as we receive those answers, there are other aspects of ourselves that we have to continue to notice, to be aware of. The first thing is the inner child. The inner child will try to drive the show if you haven't healed those childhood wounds.
Truth. Yes.
The second thing is the masculine and the feminine balance, the unity that we have, that we walk with and that we express in the world. Are we a doer? Are we more of a doer? Are we more of a receiver? These will have an effect on how well we perform and realize our purpose. The next part is understanding our magnetic frequency. You want to understand, how am I attracting things? What frequency am I giving off? How am I protecting my energy centers? Because we do have energy centers, what we call in Sanskrit chakras, that will communicate with us exactly what is going on within ourselves and within our lives. So they're kind of like our board of directors. They're our advisors. And so when you know and learn how to communicate with those energy centers, you don't waste time as much, and you can see things more clearly, because clarity and resonance are what you need to execute your purpose here. So again, as we started this conversation, to come into the awareness of the ego, and to understand who we are and who we are being, will allow us to have great impact in the world through our purpose.
And that sounds like a beautiful segue to the T in greater, which is transitioning with purpose. There's a purpose for this transition from becoming aware of the ego and how it can run the show and coming into like the divine. I love how you mentioned the masculine and feminine energies, because people tend to think that, oh, I'm a woman, I'm feminine. Oh, I'm a man, I'm masculine. There's no room for feminine in the masculine, no room for feminine or masculine in the feminine. But what we see a lot of times is, men that are afraid to lean into their femininity and women that are stuck in their masculinity because, single mom, they had to fend for themselves. They had to heal from something horrible that happened to them, and they have to be protective. There's a big difference between healing and transforming. When you realized that you were not just meant to teach others, well, let me say this a different way. You were not just meant to heal yourself, but teach others. What was that like? What was that transition like?
Thank you. I love these questions, and I love how we're going in the structure of greater.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to touch on something you mentioned about the masculine and the feminine, just so some of our listeners can maybe get more clarity on that, and then I'll answer that question. That's okay. So we are in bodies, we're in costumes. So when we identify with the feminine or the female energy as a woman, or the masculine male energy as a man, that's actually a collective belief that we have created as humans. And so they do not serve us at all. That's actually not what we are supposed to be doing and thinking at all. We are here in these bodies as costumes to play our roles and assignments and our contracts. The masculine and the feminine are inside of us, in each one of us. And so if a man has more femininity inside a man's body, they're meant to honor that feminine energy inside the man's body. It doesn't mean that they're less manly, because being a man is misconstrued in the way that we've understood it through the ages. Okay? Being masculine woman in a woman's body doesn't mean she's less of a woman. She just has to understand that she's operating more from that masculine side at the time. Those things can switch at any time in our lives. We may be more feminine in our early lives as a man and move more into our masculine later on, because our assignments, our directions, our roles for other people, our roles for ourselves may be shifting. So that can change. So you cannot, the key is to not be stuck or attached to any of it, but to be aware of this powerful character that you're playing, this role you're playing, just like in the film industry, right? These method actors, they come in, some of these great actors like De Niro and Meryl Streep, they come in as method actors, meaning they embody the character. They embody the character before they get in front of the camera. Zac Efron is like that as well. So they learn that character, they eat like that character, they speak like that character, all of those things. So they're embodying it. They're not identifying with it. A bad actor identifies with the character and tries to be that character. So a great human embodies the role that they've been given and plays that to the best of their ability. I'm going to embody that mother, that I am the mother now. I am nurturing. I am loving. I'm kind. I'm going to embody the protector. You see what I mean? The ego will identify with it. And that's where a lot of the illusion is in this world, and this disruption and this disconnection is that we're operating from an identified ego.
Wow.
Now, to go into the transition of being a healer, is that pretty much what the question was? I'm trying to remember exactly.
Just when did you realize you were meant to teach others, not just heal yourself?
Oh, okay, beautiful. Yes, I started the Kula Paradise Academy recently, where I realized that I needed to start that because I got a calling. I downloaded it. I understood it. I knew this was my next assignment. And all the doors would close. Like, that's what happens, right, guys? Like, your door to where you think you want to go just does not seem to open, no matter how hard you try. And you'll bang, you'll fight for it. I mean, I fought to stay in the film industry. I really did. I thought I'm a great cinematographer. I'm really good at what I do. Why am I not getting these big jobs? It must be my agent. It must be this. It must be that. No, I was redirected. So with that surrender, transitioning into teaching, now I've created programs in the Kula Paradise Academy that I'm very excited and very proud of. And we've just launched our third level program in the academy called Sovereign. We just launched it today. And yes, and that's just how I knew. I just knew that this is this next step. I'm 57 years old. I've lived a lot of life. I don't identify with my age. So I stay young. I stay looking very youthful.
I was about to say you found the fountain of youth, Kelly, because I would have never guessed. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so that's the key. If you want to maintain a youthfulness, never identify with your age, with your biological body, or with the attitude of that age. Stick with the soul. Many people that are much younger have older souls, and they will look older even though they're so young because they have older souls. So it really is that soul that is the ticket.
That's so good because I had an old soul growing up, and I never got carded, and my ex-wife was older than me, and she always got carded. It's just so funny. Um, Before we move on to the empowering of a network, which is exactly what you do at the Kula Paradise Academy, I want to dive into something you said that, if I'm wondering about it, I know someone else must be as well. Um, how do you navigate leaving an old identity behind? Because there's a transition that needs to happen, but it's often easier said than done. Like, there's something we're called to do, and once we realize it, those doors start shutting. You mentioned that, and I'm just like, I'm over here. Yes, I'm begging to either hold on to, or I'm raising my hand like, yes, me too. How do you navigate that transition when all those doors start closing and the only thing left to do is to step into your purpose?
Well, you really don't need to worry about that very much because God, Source, the universe, will make sure you get there. You will be guided, you'll be thrown down, you'll be stopped, you'll be blocked, you will go through the pain. So, what I recommend is to try to be as aware as possible of how much that ego has control because it's very elusive. And so, in order to do that, that takes practice. And so, when we talk about practice, we talk about meditation, breath work, exercise, anything that's going to take you out of the mindset or the environment where your ego is gaining power.
Mm.
And yeah, and then the best and easiest way then, once you've realized that, again, is to come into this detachment. You know, the Buddha talked about how attachment is what causes suffering, which is it's very interesting because I studied and lived in a Dharma house for a year, and I served a Tibetan master, and he defines Buddha as the vast awakening.
Mm.
But you see the statues of the Buddha all the time with the eyes closed, right? The eyes are almost closed. The eyes are more closed than open to the illusion of this world. So there's that returning to the inner soul, the inner self, that peace, that solitude, that place inside of us that is connected to everything. When I talk about solitude, I talk about that in the most productive way, in that you are detaching then into your soulfulness, your embodied true nature of your soul. So that's the easiest way to do it, is to detach, realize when you're in the ego, and know that you're going to be led there anyway. So don't worry about it that much. Don't give it so much thought. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Instead, use that as an opportunity, right? There are two types of rich people, I say. We're all rich, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're rich. We have a body, so we're wealthy. And just in that, they're the real rich, the ones that give thanks for everything that's in this world. They see everything as luxury. They see everything as abundance, as sacred, right? And then there are the fake rich. There are those that are separated. There are all those people on social media saying, I'm making $10 million this year. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. This is the false rich because they're trying to reel in their next opportunity or payment. And that is very steeped in attachment and suffering. So release, let go into the real rich, go into the opportunity, go into a place of like, I know that I'm going to be served.
Yeah.
I know that this opportunity is going to reward me in some way, whether in this life or the next. So yeah, I hope
That's,
that helped with transitioning out of ego into purpose. It'll happen.
I mean, it just sounds like from what I gathered, it's going to happen whether we want it to or not. So we might as well surrender to the process, and you can't run from it.
You can't run from it.
I love the real rich versus the fake rich. Um, that that's so powerful because it's 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 almost like putting on a show versus just showing up and letting the show radiate and emanate from you, right?
Exactly. Beautifully put.
Well, thank you. I felt like I was understanding that correctly.
Absolutely. No, for sure. No, that's exactly what it is. It's more about, you know what? How is this going to unfold? I set my intentions. I know I want to serve. I know that I have work to do here in terms of my assignments. I know that I'm going to be meeting the right person, potentially to have my next relationship with.
Hmm.
Just allow that to happen and look forward to it and let it go. Let the universe do its work. You know, Abraham Hicks talks a lot about, and a lot of spiritual teachers talk a lot about, go out and have fun.
Mm,
Go out and release. You know what you want. You know what you don't want, but know that you're not wanting that from your ego.
mm,
And then, and there's not even a wanting, like the way I teach things, the way, you know, in the academy, the way that I've been shown from the
mm.
higher power to teach things is there shouldn't, you don't want to be in the wanting
No,
ever.
no.
You don't want to be in the needing or the wanting. You want to be in the allowing and the serving.
Mm. Oh, that's so powerful. The allowing and the serving. It's to be in flow.
And doesn't it feel good? Doesn't it resonate with you? Like when you tune into that, it's just like, just feels like love.
Yeah, it's a beautiful reminder because, the whole waiter to greater journey, the reason I wrote the book is because I learned how to get in flow and how to just step into what was already there for me by serving and allowing and just showing up and letting whatever flows through me flow out to the people it needed to go to.
Mm.
And as we kind of start being successful, people start saying things about us and we start to believe it.
Mm.
And we can get caught up in believing our own press to the point where we get out of flow and we get back into this wanting, this needing, this reaching for something that's outside of us and trying to bring it into our reality. But like, we don't get what we want, we get who we are. And I love that you brought back up your academy because like we're transitioning into empowering your network. And from my understanding, Kula Paradise Academy feels like more than a business. It sounds like a community. And I'm curious, what does community mean to you in the healing process?
Thank you. Yes, it is an educational platform. It's something that I wish that we had been taught in school, and what I wish they were teaching kids in school about mindset, about community connection, and all of the things that we have been sharing today. Yeah, so definitely it is about the community, building that community. I will be in the room for live coaching once a week. When you join that community, you can speak to me directly and share, ask questions. I have that power to tune in to your soul, and I also will answer for the collective. So it's a very exciting place for me to be building right now to bring this awareness into our lives.
Mm,
And yeah, there was something that I wanted to comment though on what you said. Oh yes, and it was around the illusion. And okay, this is it. This is it. I'm sorry. I know I'm jumping back, but
I love it.
these downloads are coming to me that I feel your listeners need to hear about. So there are a lot of people, a lot of coaches, teachings that will teach you that you have to embody an identity, or you need to be a certain person or a certain way in order to become wealthy or in order to be successful. This keeps you on the level of the illusion. It keeps you in that field of who you think you are through the ego. But it's very tricky because it works with some of the laws of the universe. So people will say, you know, if you say I am prosperous or I am rich or I am this, and you use the I am statement, that is true. It will eventually work for you, but it's on the vehicle of the ego. It's still keeping you stuck in the attachment and in the illusion. What we're teaching you at Kula Paradise Academy as a community is to ascend, to arise above that, because you can stay and romance this dream. You can romance this illusion, sure. You can play with it, romance. You can become very wealthy. You can buy the big house, you can get the cars and show everybody on social media, but you'll never be fulfilled because you have not tapped in to the true reason that you're here, and that is for your soul realization, your self-realization, your soul evolution, and your ascension into a higher path of service. Did Jesus have a big house and fancy cars and wear an identity that he needed to be rich and show everybody that he is successful by flashing how much money he's made? No. The opposite. Jesus served and spread the word. Right? Buddha was born into wealth. Buddha left the castle. He was born into a kingdom. He could have everything he had as long as he stayed inside the walls. That's a metaphor. That's a metaphor of you can stay inside the walls of this illusion and work your way up to the top and do all of that stuff, but you're in a prison. He went out, sat under a tree, and he said, it's attachment. It's the attachment that causes the suffering. So the wealth will come to you if it's meant to. We have all of these things that are predetermined before we come into this body and all of our worlds that we go to. We will have our wealth predetermined. We will have our environment, our families, our social status. All of that is predetermined. And so when you can trust and fall back on the allowing of that predetermination to play out, you will have served well.
That is so beautiful. That was definitely a download and a nugget that needed to come out. So I'm glad you went back to it. And, you know, I noticed, what was it, 2009, I wanted to become a licensed professional counselor. And I am such an empath that I had to walk away from that because I can see myself just from being in 12-step programs, losing myself in people, and just becoming so emotionally entangled with them that, and I guess it's bordering on people pleasing. Like I still kind of do this, get so wrapped up in wanting to help people that I forget to charge them. So how do you teach others to use their gifts without losing themselves in people's pain? Or how do you not lose yourself in people's pain yourself?
That's something that I've been challenged with as long enough, as far away as yesterday. You know, it's,
Wow.
and I'll tell you why. People like us, empaths, those that are here to be of great service and help in these ways where we don't want to charge or whatever that is, it's our nature. It's part of our soul nature. So it's okay, but we're also growing. We're molding into a higher field of service within this universe. So we do have to learn how to have healthy boundaries, because when we let our energy seep into the service of others, we're letting our energy seep. We have to learn how to maintain and control our full power. And this is what we teach in the academy as well. How do we maintain and control our full power so that we can have greater impact and create legacy on a broader plane rather than just one on one on one on one. And it's okay when we're called to play roles for people and to serve them, but we also have to learn our lessons to know when to stop. Some people need to not have our service and our healing because they have to travel their own journey with the beloved, with the divine. God is working through all of us. Source is working through all of us. And so if we feel that we need to continue, our ego is seeping in again. We're thinking, I have the power, I have the way to help these people. But we have to realize, no, I'm not helping by enabling, even though I could feel them and I know they're in pain. So it really is a discretion, coming back down to that clarity and discretion again around, okay, when do I pull back and pull all my energetic powers back into my center again and redirect?
That is so good. You know, all things happening exactly as they should for all people in all places at all times without exception. This conversation was meant to happen at this exact time because I needed that. Pulling back and realizing that it's not my job to enable. I'm not the savior. It's not always going to be me that heals someone. And what does it say? When the teacher is ready, the student will appear. And then one of the first things you have to ask someone before you heal them is, are you willing to walk away from the thing that's causing your pain? Something I
Great.
rarely ask. And I think the Bible says we throw our pearls to swine and then get mad when they trample it, but that's their nature. It's what they do.
So important and so much of what I needed to hear as well, Gregory. So thank you so very much. I think that when we start to feel that we're losing our peace with it, and our inner peace is being disturbed to the point of fracture, and we're feeling our own energy fracturing, then we know too that's another sign that we need to pull back, come back into ourselves, and allow that person to walk that path because, hey, maybe they don't need healing and potentially they could be playing a role for us.
Maybe they're teaching us a lesson.
They're the teacher. The alcoholic is the teacher. The abuser is the teacher. They're playing a difficult character role, very difficult, but they agreed to it. That's what they wanted, to help us and potentially for their own growth too. So,
oh my goodness. That is so, and it's so crazy. This framework works no matter where you go, and it helps you level up. So the last letter in the greater framework is R, resilience in the face of setbacks. And that's exactly what this is teaching us, is resilience. So I had a couple questions ready for this, but I'm just going to ask this instead. How do you stay resilient on this path?
through connection, by having these types of beautiful experiences as a guest on a podcast, having the beautiful experience of being in the community in Kula Paradise Academy, going out and speaking with a stranger, conversation, connection. It keeps me grounded because if we're social beings, we're all one fabric. So if we isolate and stay by ourselves for too long, the ego, the mental chatter, the collective of the entire culture will seep into our minds. And that's the collective I was talking about. That is not helpful. That's the egoic collective, the illusion collective. And that's what starts to stain our pure minds. So we definitely want to maintain the purity of conversation with others. I feel that is, for me, that's yes, how I do it. That's how I do it. And of course, all the other stuff, meditation and, the usual suspects, right? Breath work and exercise and all of that.
Absolutely.
With nutrition. No, I don't imbibe in anything at all. drug, alcohol, anything, coffee. Yeah, staying clean.
You know, I got to experience the contrast of both of those, you know, being dirty and then trying everything that could go into my body to change the way I felt. And when I got sober in 2006 and started that journey, I fell in love with what it felt like to be connected to divine source, to be able to hear from God. And when you get wrapped up in that egoic collective, you go back to coffee and, you know, nicotine, or I don't do alcohol. I've just deemed that locks up who I am in this cell where I can see the tyrant that comes out destroying my life, but I can't do anything about it until it's over. And I've just, you know, it doesn't matter what you put inside of you, because this is what I've learned is anything man makes to solve a problem ends up causing that problem in the long run.
Very well put.
And it keeps us trapped in the loop of guilt, shame, and addiction. And as you said, the way you stay resilient is connection, community. The cure to addiction is not abstinence, it's connection to other human beings, because it's not good for man to be alone. So this has been probably, and I say this every podcast, but they just keep getting better because God just keeps putting better people in my life every time. And I won't say better, I'll say different. You know, there's different perspectives. But this is probably one of the best conversations I've had on the greater journey thus far. Mm-hmm. So I have a couple last questions, and I'm trying to find that, you know, just kind of, I guess, structure, even though I don't like structure, of how we close these out. But what now that we've gone through the greater framework, what does greater mean to you? Like, what's your definition of greater?
Greater for me means a more of a, again, that surrender, that falling, you know, when you, what do you call it when you jump off the stage and you just let people catch you? And
surfing.
And body surfing. So it's like so it's like I have this thing called the trilogy formula. So it's more about like just surfing on the soul, surfing on God. You know, that's how I become greater and loving myself more, so that ever deepening, endless well of self-love, the ever brightening light of my mind, the ever opening heart of service, and the ever depth of presence of stillness. And that leads me into greater.
Oh, that's so good. I felt that. That is so good. And if your 20-year-old self, or 20-year younger self, could see the woman you've become today, the healer, the mother, the filmmaker, the founder, what do you think she'd say to you?
My 20-year-old self would say to me that of who I am now, oh God, I have so much suffering to go through. I can't wait to get there. It was a lot. I mean, I'm telling you, people, it's okay. You know, I feel your pain. I've, you know, the more suffering, the more pain you have, the greater you will evolve, and the greater soul you will, your colors of your soul will shine brighter and deepen when you go back to the other side. Your colors will change. You'll be recognized on the other side again as that soul that has gone through the pain and the suffering that it needed to. So congratulations in advance. You're on this incredible journey.
And what's the one message you hope everyone takes from your story? I'm assuming that was it, but you might have something different for that one.
Pull back in this time, in this age of disruption, in this age of noise. This is meant for you to do so. All of this outer world is an incredibly intelligent manifestation of the Creator for you to return to your heart, to return to your soul, to return to yourself. So take time to do that. Release, unhook from the wanting, the needing, the comparison, the judgment, unhook from all of that. That has nothing to do with who you are and why you're here.
So good. And where can they find you, Kelly? I know you have a podcast. You have the Kula
Paradise.
Paradise Academy,
Yeah,
KPA. No KPIs, just KPA here.
KPA. Well, please go to kulaparadiseacademy.com. It's spelled Kula. Kula means family, tribe, community in Sanskrit. And you can find me on my Instagram at Kula Paradise, or you can follow my personal Instagram at kellymason.scc. SCC stands for Superconscious Creator. And listen to the podcast, which is called Superconscious Creator Podcast. And please reach out. Please message me, reach out, ask questions. I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to be of service.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on today. This has been, again, one of the greatest podcasts I've had to date. I feel like I'm Apple and announcing the new iPhone. This is the best iPhone we've ever made.
Thank you. I won't let that go to my head.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Why is it so?
Thank you, Gregory.
Thank you so much.
Loved it.
Yes. Subscribe, share this with someone who you know can benefit from this, and we will see you greater.